fans of a Horus Heresy, amazing fan animation, and working out if you've had a new zoonotic disease. Thank you very much for joining me for a bit of a prepare some parts and chat video, and that's what we're going to be doing today. It's also going to be almost like a mini unboxing in a very strange way. I'll come back to that. So first off, I hope you are all well, and yes, and obviously in the current exceptional times with the COVID pandemic raging across the world, that's a real concern to us all. So yes, I do hope you, your friends and your family are all well. As you probably gathered from the title of this video, I've not been so well. I'm feeling a lot better now. And well, I thought let's take a moment to have a video to say hello again. What we're going to do in this video, I have got here a selection of parts from my third and final Arquitor Bombard, and this is the most recently released, which is armed with the Morbus Heavy Bombard. There's a couple of reasons I've got these bits here. So first, we've got a couple of parts here, which is the sort of mortar assembly, and these are just to show you them because it's quite fun, and it's the only thing that's different in the whole kit. So rather than do, aside from the fact that I've been ill and busy, rather than do another half-hour unboxing of essentially the same model, I'll just show you these new bits. The other thing we've got here are these two parts, which is the front and the rear hull, and there's a lot of cleanup work to do on these. These weren't particularly well cast, and in my opinion, they are beyond what I'd normally accept. But you know, in somewhat exceptional circumstances, so I thought, well, let's use these as an example of what you can put right when you get a part on a resin kit, a forgeable kit in this instance, that's not cast so well. So as well as doing that, I'm going to chat about a couple of topics as well. Well, I suppose we need to do the usual tools thing. So not many tools today. We've got a couple of scalpels, a blunt scalpel and a sharp one. I always have the blunt one in case I need it. We've got a needle file, which has got a flat underside tapering to a point, and a hemispherical upper. We've got one of these rather neat Flexifile flex pads. This is a 1500 grit coarse one. This is brand new. These are really good tools. These are an absolute must in my view for the serious resin modeler. So that's handy. And then we've also got a glass of water. And that's not to drink, that's to wet the file, so we're not doing dry resin sanding. And then finally, of course, we have dusty brush. We always have dusty brush, don't we? Right, well, let's start off with looking at the unique parts to the Morbus Heavy Bombard variant of the Arquitor Bombard. If I sound a little bit hoarse today, it's because I've been coughing a lot. Might be a little rough. Anyway, so here is the Morbus Heavy Bombard itself. So a big, hefty, chunky lump. This has been taken off the key, as you can see, and I'm part way through cleaning it up. But yeah, it's a cool looking weapon, very chunky and substantial. And quite a contrast to the spicular rockets and the graviton charge cannon of the other two variants in terms of looks. This is just like a big shell. And the quite neat party feature of this is a Revolver Magazine for said Bombard. Again, this is only partially cleaned up, and that goes in there like that and is designed to rotate, which I think is rather cool, and it's a bit like the similar Revolver Magazine on the graviton charge cannon, although here we only have 5 rounds in the cylinder as opposed to 7. And then you take this doohickey here, which is like, I don't know what you call it, the mounting frame, the clamp. It's not a clamp, it's like a frame. And that slides on there, and there's a pin that goes into the back of the magazine, and that holds the whole thing in place. And then we can have it rotating away. So much like with the other one, I'll probably put a magnet in somewhere just to give probably here actually this side. I'll put a magnet in just so it's got a bit of resistance. And then this final part, which isn't yet taken away from the key, sits there like that. And I guess that's kind of like a protective van brace type, well, I don't know, a protective arch so the magazine can't be struck from above as easily. Very nice, yeah. So that's a Morbus Heavy Bombard. The only unique thing to the new kit. So there you go. In effect, that's another unboxing in one. Right, let's now talk about what we're going to be working on, which is the front and the rear hull. So, right, yeah, these weren't cast. I mean, they're not bad. They were really, really greasy. I had to do 2 24-hour soaks to get them cleaned up. But casting-wise, they were not as good. I mean, we've got this ugly mold slip here. So we're going to take that off. We're going to clean up the remains of the casting key posts. But that's not, I mean, it's work that needs doing, but that's dead easy, that. Do that with a knife and it'll be done. The bit that isn't as easy is this. So again, we've got the post to clean up, but then all this around here isn't particularly nice at all. So, you know, we've got slippage, we've got a big slippage here, and what's annoying with this one, just get the, is we've got this rivet detail here, and then it's slipped over there, so you can't just cut this slip down. So I don't know if it needs filling. Once the initial cleanup's done, I mean, I suppose it could just go together like that and it might be hidden. But I'll be looking to carefully clean it up so I don't take the rivet away. That'll probably need filling there. But the bit that I really don't like is this corner here, and this isn't well cast at all. There's 2 reasons for this. Firstly, whoever cut the mould, you never want to cut a mould across like that, and it's run right across this plate and this rivet head. So that's not the best. So that needs reprofiling to line it up. We've got misaligned edges of this plate here, so that needs sorting out. But the bit that I found that's particularly bothered me is how this has been cast distorted. And you can see this quite evidently on this top-down view. You can see that this sticks out here, and the whole of this upper section has basically got distorted out that way. Now, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to deal with this yet. One idea I have is to clean the part up and to keep the curve, in other words, the shape of the part as cast. And then I might try heat it and in effect squash it all back into line. That might work, and it'll be quite subtle to do that. If that doesn't work, I'll have to build it up with some milliput and then basically cut it and file it and shape it back into what it should look like. Yeah, that's quite messy, that. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to chat as well. So let's start with the easy bit and work our way up. So we'll get rid of these casting gates first, or the remains of them anyway. Right, well, so that's all that. All right, what we're going to talk about today. Well, I thought, was it on Friday? Yes, I think it was Friday, wasn't it? No, we're on Saturday today, aren't we? So no, it wasn't Friday, it must have been Thursday. The 5th part of the fan-made 40k animation Astartes was released. So we're going to talk about that. It's very cool. I'm going to talk about my recent experience of having a mystery virus, which I suspect was COVID-19. But at this point, I only suspect that. But I'm going to talk to you because it was an interesting experience, and it's very topical as well. I don't normally talk about stuff like that, but yeah, on this occasion, I'm going to make an exception. And also because I think, well, there's something of interest in my experience as well for all of us in terms of thinking about, have we picked up this virus? What else might I talk about as well? Or maybe we'll talk about, well, actually, let's start with this. We'll talk about the Lion. So the reveal of the Dark Angels Primarch, Lionel Jonson, the Primarch of the First Legion. So we recently got, Games Workshop released some images on the preview of this fantastic new Primarch model. I think there was a collective gasp of adoration from the very patient and long-suffering Dark Angels players who have been desperate for this model for years. It's been revealed. What do I think? I think it looks absolutely awesome. I really like it. I'm not a collector of Dark Angels, as you well know, but I think it's one of the Primarch models that gets it right. And on this one, you can see that they're doing more with the kit now than they were before. And they don't have to do a lot to do more with it, because by this they are including additional 2 weapon options and an unhelmeted and a helmeted head, which I really like. The 2 sword options, there is oh gosh, I'm going to forget the name. The Wolf Blade, that's right, isn't it? The Wolf Blade is the chainsaw type weapon. He then has a sword weapon, and I cannot remember its name. Comments, please help me out there. Yeah, please help me out on that one, comments. But that's really neat. So, and it suits the line as well, because one of the signature things with Dark Angel officers and heroes is their winged helmets. And whoever sculpted this, which I presume was Simon Egan, as with the other Primarch models, I believe he did them all. Did he do Alfaris? I think he did. I'm sure Simon Egan's done the whole group. But he, it's really good that they've included these options. The actual model itself looks really good. He's in a pose where he's ready to strike with his blade. It comes on a neat diorama where he's fighting a bunch of Astartes that look, well, in the studio model, are fittingly painted up as Night Lords. So that looks really good. Really, really good. Great looking model. Incredible. An absolute feast of detail. And a good pose as well. As I say, I rather like the pose. So I've taken those 2 posts away. I need to take a bit more of this one away. That's still a little proud. So I don't think we've been given an indicated release date yet. I don't think it's going to be far off. Well, I say that, but clearly everything is up in the air with the current pandemic. Games Workshop's mail order is, to all intensive purposes, with the exception of that Primaris Lieutenant model that they've made available, the event-only one, Games Workshop's mail order system, everything, the whole side of that business is shut down. The Warhammer community team seem to be operating, but everyone else is, I don't know what they've done. I don't know if they've furloughed all their staff, but yeah, not happening. So yeah, it's anyone's guess as to when that might be released. I guess speculating on the when of it at the moment is an exercise in futility. Right, I'm going to start working on this unpleasant mold slip here and reprofile it, so it's in line with the rest of it. Yes, the line, an absolutely stunning miniature, the latest one from the Horus Heresy character series, and brings the released Primarch count up to a truly impressive 17, which those of you keeping count will appreciate. Just leaves one legion to go. That's right, the White Scars, the Jagatai Khan, the last of the Emperor's sons that we have ever been named in the lore, shall we say. Okay, there's a star there because, you know, there is there a third Alfarius? And if you want to know what I'm thinking of there, you need to read Book 3, Extermination, and the lore section for the Alpha Legion. Right, so that's one half done. That looks okay. Now we'll do the more difficult half, which is this little selection here. Difficult to know where you are with the heresy these days. Unfortunately, the Warhammer community marketing people have taken over the flow of information out of Forge World, and we simply don't get to see what's coming next in the way we used to do 18 months to 2 years ago. And that's a shame. That I do miss that. Everything now is previewed as part of a commercial marketing release strategy. We don't get to see things because it's like, ooh, look at this, guys. Look at this, guys and girls. This will be coming out soon. Or this is what we're working on. And things just aren't released as they're available. They're released as part of a sales, plan. If you've not noticed that, it's definitely going on. I guarantee you it is. So, oh dear, look at that. Look at the offset on that. There's a millimetre. So this should be, yeah, this is going to need, the whole thing is going to need heating up and bending into the correct shape here. That's quite, there you go. You can see the offset now. And again, that kind of bears out what I said about this particular kit. This is not as well cast as the other two. The other two had a really good fit. You know, they were very precise. Right. So yeah, Lionel Jonson, coming soon. Star, terms and conditions apply. Right, now I've got to try figure out how to do the edge of this bracket. Again, this is sloppy placement of where the mold's been cut. This needed to run down here, and it's only 2 millimeters, but it has such an outcome on the quality of the cast part. I've also got to try do this while not doing so in a way that I could slice my finger open. Another reason why the Forge World mold people should cut these molds properly, so as hobbyists don't have to do risky scalpel maneuvers. There you go. There's a different way to look at it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Right, now let me. What should we talk about next? Well, I'm going to talk about my my little COVID experience, or was it or wasn't it COVID? Yeah, I've not been very well this week. I actually had to take a couple of days off work because I was absolutely wiped out. I think I might have had COVID-19. So I've had a number of the key symptoms. So a persistent dry cough is one. I had some very, very strong coughing. When you get to a point when you have a mini sick because you're coughing so hard, you end up with a headache at the end of the day because you've been coughing so hard. You know it's a strong cough. But that in itself, I mean, I've had coughs in the past, but the thing there was, it was, as the various authorities are describing it, a dry cough, and by that, like there's no phlegm or gunk coming up. And I've not had any of that, and it's been really weird. So I've never had a cough quite like it. I've had things. I've had chest infections in the past. I've even had one that was classified as pneumonia, if I remember rightly. So I know what chest infection's like, but this was unlike anything of those. But yeah, the funny thing is, I first started getting symptoms over 3 weeks ago. And the first I knew of it, or the first time I felt anything, was I'd been working one day, and it got to about lunchtime, and I just started to get this all over feeling of that, just sort of all over malaise feeling, a little bit like if you've ever had proper flu, and I'm not talking about cold, I mean actual influenza. And I know I've had influenza. So I had bird flu, I had swine flu, and I'd had it in my teenage years a couple of times as well. Yeah, it was that sort of feeling. And it kind of, I pushed through the day, and then I went and I crashed and I slept for about 3 hours straight after work. So clearly something wasn't quite right. The next day I felt all right. I actually felt pretty decent. And then for the next 3 days, from lunchtime onwards to early evening, I had, I was getting chills and feeling feverish, and it was very strange. It was kind of like midday every day. Lasted for 4 or 5 hours. It was enough to notice it, but it wasn't particularly strong. And then it sort of like faded off again, and that went on until I think. Well, first one was a Tuesday. I think it went on until the Friday. Then on the Friday, I started noticing that I was getting the dry cough. Which was, but it was only very mild to begin with. What does this look like? That's not bad now, actually. We are going to have to do a little bit of milliputting here, I think, or some sort of filling there. Maybe just do a little bit more under here, but we're about there now with this, so that's not too bad. Yeah, then for the next week, or most of the next week, all I just noticed was this cough getting more and more noticeable. And that was all. But then it got to the weekend, and I think on the Saturday I felt quite ill. So I had this I felt very tired, this sort of malaise feeling, and I think I was starting to feel a bit hot and flushed and getting chills again. So, I mean, it was a weekend, so I rested up. I then went through a pattern for the next week. So this is like the second week of being unwell or having symptoms, of going a day, being fine, then the next day I'll be getting chills, feeling a bit flushed, and just general malaise. And a couple of days I had a stonkingly bad headache come on as well, for no other reason and I could just tell it was something to do with an illness. And that went on for another week. So the end of the second week, I'd had like these alternating days of these symptoms. And the cough was getting stronger. So what do we think about this part? Where I've got it to? Well, I think for the moment, that's all right. This bit here looks a lot nicer. I think the reprofiling there is pretty good. Just a little bit more there. Now, within this period of time, I've been working at home for weeks and weeks before this whole thing started, because I'm centrally based, and my business took the decision quite early on that all non-critical business travel for central people, or functional managers you might say, was banned. So I'd already been in a state of somewhat isolation for quite a while before anything got introduced by the government. But that weekend, again, I had the Saturday, I felt quite ill again, a bit like I had done a week ago. And that was a bit of a sofa Saturday, that one. I think that might actually have been when I made that previous video when I said I wasn't feeling very well. I can't remember, I'd have to check the date on it. Yeah, right, I'm going to leave it there with that for the moment. So we'll put that to one side, we'll do this one, and then when we put them together once they're cleaned up as best I can, then I'll see if I need to take anything else away from that. Right, okay, so the naughty part. Well, let's deal with the remains of the key post first. Ooh, just noticed that. That's a little bit of a mold break there. So I'll turn that away. I've not got it here, but this is the sort of thing that micro chisels are great for doing. But then the Sunday, I felt fine in myself again. This weird on-off symptoms that I'd been experiencing. And it was around then that the government in the UK changed its advice. So the advice had been on self-isolation if you're experiencing both fevers and a new dry cough. And when they said fevers, they said above 37.3 degrees, if I remember rightly, which is quite hot, actually. I mean, my body resting temperature is about 36. And the hottest I'd measured it at was 36.8 when I was feeling feverish. So I wasn't as high as their advice said, but they then changed the advice that weekend to either or. So it's like, okay, so the thinking has moved on here. So Saturday was another sofa day. Sunday felt better. Monday, though, now Monday is when things really start to happen in terms of feeling really ill. I think Monday I woke up feeling pretty tired and grotty. And I mean, I did my job as usual, working from home. And I got through the day all right. It was a very long day. I was working till about 10 o'clock at night. And this is just dealing with the issues that we've got in our business at the moment, which I'm not going to go into, but yeah, I had to work late. So I think I had a bit of a chill after that. I went to bed. Now, I think about midnight, I started getting some really strong chills in my legs and very intense aching feeling in my legs. And at this point, I think I had a headache as well, quite a noticeable headache. But I was then thinking to myself, oh yeah, not feeling well at all here. And it probably went on for about 2.5 hours. I don't think I got to sleep until after 3 that morning because of these strong chills. And when I say strong chills, it was like sort of shooting sensations through the legs. Not nice at all. So the Tuesday, I woke up and, as you can imagine, I wasn't feeling great, but I got up as usual, started working. By 10 a.m. that morning, I then started experiencing very, very strong chills throughout my whole body. So strong that it was causing involuntary muscle contractions. And I had quite a novel morning trying to work, doing some quite complicated formula work in Excel with these things firing off, and it wasn't nice. And yeah, I don't think I was very productive at all. But it got to lunchtime, and by lunchtime, I'd been kind of enduring I don't know, maybe 12:30. I was feeling really, really unwell. And I just got in touch with my work and said, right, I'm off sick now. I felt very unwell. I then laid on the sofa, and I think I slept straight off for about 4 hours. Yeah. You know, when you fall asleep in the middle of a day like that, something's not right. When I woke up, I felt like death. I felt absolutely horrendous. Completely and utterly drained of energy. Oh, sorry. Within this, my episodes of coughing had got a lot more powerful as well. Really, really strong dry coughing. But no no stuff coming up with the coughing. And here's the other really weird thing with this, and this is kind of something for everyone to think about if you get symptoms like this. It's like, well, how do you tell this apart from a cold? Well, throughout this whole thing, I've not had once a sore throat, sniffles, so any sort of nasal congestion, no sinus congestion, and no gunk coming up with coughing. And that's really weird. I've never had anything like that. Any cold stuff like that, I always get those symptoms. Here, none of that. It's been the fevers, or the chills for me in particular, mild fever, and the coughing. Yeah, Tuesday, when I woke up early evening, felt like death. No appetite. Wasn't interested in eating at all. And I think I went to bed. Well, I can't remember if I laid on the couch for the rest of the day or went up to bed. I just cannot remember. It was not nice. In terms of how it felt, well, it felt a lot like having the flu, the proper flu, influenza. It felt awfully similar to that. So I didn't have a very good night's sleep. I had this sort of chilly, not quite like the night before, but this unpleasant, can't describe it, the bubbling sensation in my legs for a few hours that night, and that stopped me from sleeping well. So the next day was a write-off when it came to work. Yeah, and that was a day of sick leave. And I spent half the day in bed, got up, made a cup of tea, and then spent the rest of the day laying on the sofa. And those of you on Twitter who follow me, thank you very much for all the cheery tweets that you sent me to cheer me up. So I do appreciate that. Oh dear, right. Starting to get somewhere with this now. So after that, but that was the last time I actually had any fevers and chills. So on the Thursday, I worked again, not very productively, but I did get some stuff done. And then the Friday, I was doing better again. And today's Saturday. I think we're on is it the 4th of April today? Feeling, a lot better again. I can still tell I've had something. I'm still a bit tired, but definitely feeling better. I'd continued to have strong coughing symptoms up until, well, I was still actually having strong coughing symptoms yesterday, so I'm still in the self-isolation thing, which is, I think, me being extra careful because I don't want to pass this on. I've not been feeling well, but it's not, I've not had any of the really serious issues that some people have had, so there's no way, for the sake of staying inside a bit, that I want to take that risk of passing it on. So that's my little experience here with was it or wasn't it COVID-19? I mean, have I had it? I don't know. I've not been tested. The UK is not in I wasn't basically ill enough to have to go to hospital, far from it. And the UK is not currently testing people, hasn't got the capacity to test outside of severe and critical symptoms cases and some medical healthcare professionals now. However, if I were to cite Occam's razor, I would say I probably have had it. Given the timing, this type of symptoms, yeah, I think I probably have had it. And as per isolation advice, I'm assuming I have for a while yet. So that's my story, and I don't know if anyone else has had it or might have had it, but it is really difficult to try figure out if you have got it, because the symptoms are so similar to a whole variety of other relatively common ailments. And the really insidious thing about the virus in general is the huge range of severity in the symptoms. I mean, COVID-19 has killed people, and it's killed people who are otherwise fit and well. But yet there are others who it is a relatively mild illness for, and potentially for some they're completely asymptomatic while being infectious. And this is why it's so insidious, and this is why it's become a pandemic, because it's so easy to spread. If you contrast it with the SARS outbreak of, I think it was 2003. I mean, SARS was a much, based on the data we have for COVID at the moment, SARS was a much more dangerous illness in terms of the morbidity. However, everyone who picked up the virus got the symptoms, and they got them bad. And that limited how much the virus could spread. COVID is probably an order of magnitude less lethal, but its weird random pattern of severity has made it far more transmissible. So yeah, interesting times. But yeah, so that's my little personal experience, and I hope that hasn't bored you. And the only reason I've talked about it is just to try share a personal experience with you all. You know, perhaps if you find yourself in my situation, it might help you understand what you're going through. And it might, be useful knowledge for you to try and think about how to manage your illness. So yeah, there you go. We don't normally do Leakycheese ND, but there you go. And of course, I'm not a medical healthcare professional at all. Yada-da, usual exclaimers, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, right, all that aside, I've now got the posts off. That's not cleaned up yet. But so right, this is the bit that's bugging me. So it's sticky out on this side, and it's sticky in here on this side. It does not line up properly at all. I think you can actually see that that's bowed in there. I'm not quite sure how best to deal with that. It almost looks like the whole thing needs heating up and trying to shift this over. And then I think I'm probably going to need to fill in here, because that's going to be a cavity, and maybe do some very fine reprofiling on the panel edge to try and make it more square and true. But the funny thing is, the actual fit here that's actually rather tight, setting aside all the mess with that mold slip. So it's a weird one, and that is what I would classify as a casting distortion, and it's a permanent effect. That's not warping, that's a distortion effect. So some of this I won't be able to get out through heat bending. I might need to recut some of this notch, so that can be, when it's firm together, it's offset to one side. I don't know if that's, just trying to force it. I think that's a notch that's limiting it. So I either need to cut that notch down or expand that one. I'll probably cut that down. Shall I have a go at that next? Yeah, so I want it to go that way a bit, so I'm going to cut a little bit off here. Right. Well, actually, I'm going to introduce a new tool. There we go. So here we've got a 2mm square micro chisel. Very useful tools for working on resin. And you can see, if you've not seen one of these before, it is literally what it says. It's a micro chisel. You don't hit them, you just use it hand powered. So I'm going to, and these are very sharp. They're very stiff, very sharp, so they're very easy to cut into resin with. And because you've got the angle on the blade, so I think that's 45 degrees, it's then easy to reverse and to cut the other way. Really, really good. There you go, very quickly we've cut that sliver off. You could have done it with a knife, but the micro chisels are easier to use. and you can get so much force behind them. And in some ways it always feels, I don't know, it feels safer than doing it with a knife. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, it feels safer. So yeah, anyway, that's my little story of have I or haven't I had COVID-19. I think, I'm feeling much better today. So it's Saturday, so we're over 3 weeks after the first symptoms appeared. I feel like I'm over it now. We'll have to see. I'm going to continue to self-isolate for a few more days, just in case I go through another cycle of symptoms and start getting chills again. I did consult with my doctor, and they said the cough isn't, when you're coughing in apparently not the infectious phase, it's when you're having, well, you're infectious when you are having fevers and chills, apparently. The cough in itself isn't infectious. That's what my doctor advised me. I'm going to treat that advice with some additional caution. There you go. So yeah, I've cut that off. So now we've got better alignment there. That's good. So that's one of the fit and finish issues sorted out. Right, let's go back to this here. So yeah, that's my story. As I say, yeah, I hope that's useful. Not normally what I talk about, but exceptional times. And if you've had any similar experiences, obviously if you are interested to share them only, please do so. Maybe we can all understand a bit more about the nature of this thing, this little biohacker, this virus that's sweeping the globe. Right, I'm going to try reprofile this now. And we are also going to move on to my third and final topic for this video, which is talking about the fifth part, part 5 of Astartes. So Astartes is a independently made 40k fan film. And this was released on Thursday of last week. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely awesome. The first 4 episodes basically set the scene with a marine assault team boarding the vessel of the leaders of a rebellion in an imperial sector. And, I don't need to explain it, but the quality of the animation and the pacing is, the quality of the animation is outstanding. It's very, very well produced. Looks absolutely stunning. Animation is top tier, absolutely brilliant, and the pacing, it's been very fast paced the first 4 parts. They're quite short, they're not long, they're only a couple of minutes each. I think the first 4 parts are probably as long as the 5th part, if you add them all together. And the 5th part is just over 7 minutes long. So I think the whole run time on the Astartes is probably around the 14-15 minute mark now. So as you can see there, I was just using the needle file to scrape out some of the gunk here as part of this, as part of reprofiling the edge of this panel that was rather messy. I'm just going to continue doing a little bit of that. Can you see? Let's try level this a bit now with the needle file. It won't take much. Oops, sorry, bit out of camera shot there. Do apologise if I sneak out of camera shot. There you go, that's a bit smoother. I'm not going to do anything with this until I've had a go at it with the heat, because that is, that's distorted, it's not in line, it's not in shape, but I'm not going to cut it until I've had a go at bending the whole thing. Right, what we can do is, oh gosh, well, let's see if we can sort this nasty little corner out. The nasty corner. Now, part 5 really shifted the style of storytelling, and we went from frenetic action to mystery and investigation and unexpected happenings. And I was surprised and genuinely impressed by how the storytelling went through the shift of pace and style over the course of Part 5. I really enjoyed that. There's been some great discussion online as to what the orbs are, or the spheres that are the antagonists to the Astartes. I think the best suggestion I'd seen was, is it the Urath? Uvath, I think? Uvath, is that it? It's YU''VATH, if I remember rightly, that's how I say it, which are some denizens from, I believe, Dark Heresy. And they are essentially evil alien psychic enslavers. They have a lot of that to them, and they are worshippers of chaos. And it seems that the plot is, or specifically with whatever happens, these things are wanting to sacrifice some Marines to their chaos deities. And, well, I don't know, as the episode finishes with 4 of the 5 Astartes strike team that interacted with the orb, well, I don't know, maybe they are in a position where that could happen. But it was wonderful. Yeah, I mean, they're just, you got to watch it a few times. You got to slow some of the sections down and really watch them to appreciate everything that's being thrown at you and all the subtle visual keys that are going on. And there are all sorts of little subtle visual keys in there. And there's a lot of, I mean, it's all visual storytelling in Astartes because there's essentially no dialogue. There's a little bit with the Inquisitor Psyker, kind of, and the 2 orbs interacting, but most of it is visual storytelling, but there are layers to the storytelling. So there is the, let's call it the active storytelling, which is what the characters are doing, but then there's all sorts of things that are there in the scenes, and some things that happen very quickly that are relevant to the story that you need to go back and watch over. And if you've not watched it more than once, I'll definitely say watch it 2, watch it 3, watch it 4 times. And some of the sections where things happen quickly, slow them down and watch them through. It tells you a lot about what's happening, but also it gives you a lot of context for episode part 4. I really appreciated that. Yeah, it was just, I thought it was fantastic, brilliant. And what a wonderful time, what a wonderful year we're having for fan animation for 40k and 30k universes, because of course it's only been, I don't know, is it as much as a month yet since Death of Hope, Reign of Anarchy was released? Fantastic. What a time to be in the hobby with all these amazingly talented people producing these fantastic quality fan films. It's brilliant. And I think, I mean, just taking the example of Death of Hope and Astartes, kind of like the 2 that have released recently, the quality of what they're doing is absolutely outstanding. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm very impressed by all of their efforts. And I also really appreciate how there's these different people who are working entirely independent of one another, but coming up with very different takes on the same universe. You know, obviously with Death of Hope, it's Horus Heresy. Astartes is set in, 41st millennium. But also the style of storytelling and what they're getting into. Really good. But both of them are still connecting with the themes of cosmic horror that are very strong in 40k. And I really, really like that. They both feel very, I don't know, they both tap into like the soul of the 40k universe, I think. Yeah, fantastic. Getting all excited here. But yeah, wonderful. And aren't we fortunate as fans to be able to see this content for free? We're very privileged to have people such as the creators of Astartes and Death of Hope do what they do for us, you know, and I don't know about you, but I'm extremely thankful to all of them. Wonderful. Right, sun's come out, look at that. Now that's not, I don't know if that's quite done yet, but I don't really want to cut any more material away. I've reprofiled around the rivet reasonably well. I think I'm going to finish that with some filling, use some milliput. And as I say, I need to do the heat work to try and get all this straightened out. If the heat work doesn't work, then I'll have to do a more radical approach with filling to reprofile this section. So we'll see, and I'll probably need to do some work on this join here and to maybe get that lined up again. I might be able to do it with the heat, so we'll see. I think in terms of the initial knife work and cleanup work, I've got done what I intended to do. So we've taken away some nasty mold slips. We've reprofiled the groove and tongue joint at the bottom so we can get that better aligned. And then we're now at a point where I can try to get this fully straightened out. And you know me, I mean, I like to get these things spot on and really well turned out. You could stick this together as it is if you're not bothered. But you know, it's just what I enjoy doing as well. Yeah, so I think that's where we're at with that one. I think that's probably, having lavished some praises on Astartes, talked about my mystery virus, and also lavished praises on the upcoming Lionel Jonson model. I think that's a good place to draw this video to a close. Yes, that's everything I'd like to say. I hope you've enjoyed this little chat today and found it interesting looking at these parts. So seeing the unique parts for the Legion Arquitor Morbus Heavy Bombard, a little demonstration there of how to deal with some unpleasant mold slips. Yeah, I hope you found that useful and interesting. As always, I would like to hear your thoughts and observations on what I've demonstrated and talked about today. So please do share those in the comment section. As I've said recently in my last couple of videos, do all stay well. This time with the pandemic on, I'll certainly continue to be self-isolating as much as I can. But yeah, look after yourselves, and yeah, all the best to you. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.